It's lovely to see people from so many countries putting their countries, introducing themselves in the chat. So welcome everyone to the webinar today. And I'd like to introduce our speaker, who is Samah Samir Barsi. She is driven by passion for language equity and learner empowerment. And I share those passions. So this is a very important webinar topic for me as well. Samah is a university lecturer and a PhD researcher. She has a master's degree in English with a specialization in psycholinguistics. At the moment, she works as the head of the English language department at the Faculty of Arts and Humanities in the Red Sea University in Sudan. She has over 10 years experience in teaching English, and she's widely respected for her dedication to inclusive and transformative education. And you'll find out from her as the webinar goes on, you really need those skills as in this context. She's completed a wide range of certified training courses in the field of education. She's passionate about supporting both teachers and learners in complex and resource-limited contexts. And this is a really important topic. And so I'd like to hand over to Samah now to tell you more about it. Please put any questions in the chat. Over to Samah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Linda, for the beautiful introduction. I really appreciate it. And good evening and welcome, everyone. Hello. I welcome you to today's webinar on one of the most relevant, important topic nowadays. As you are going to see that, according to the UNHCR report, that numbers of refugees worldwide are increasing every single day as we are talking right now. So whether you are teaching in Sudan, whether you are teaching in Middle East, or even in the US, chances that some of your learners are refugees. So today we will explore why inclusion matters and how to support refugee learners, and what are the practical strategies that we can apply even when we work in resource-limited classrooms. I invite you to engage actively in the chat, take notes. This is a learning space for all of us. Now let us start by our goals for today's session, starting by the first objective here. Understanding the unique challenges that refugee learners face, for example, like trauma, language barriers, cultural adjustment, is very important. Whenever you understand the challenges that children face, then you are going to know how to deal with those challenges. Moreover, to create inclusive classroom environment that embraces refugee and multilingual learners. So we are going to see how we are going to handle, or how we are going to include every learner in your class to feel safe, to feel belonging in your classroom. Also, to equip educators with practical knowledge and strategies. Through it, we can foster inclusion, and through it, we can enhance engagement and support academic access. Last but not least, to explore adaptable lesson planning that help to ensure every student feel valued and respected in your classroom. Now, I need you to interact with me with a quick survey. Steve? Before we begin, I would love to hear from you that how familiar are you with inclusive education in refugee setting? Please write in the chat if you have any experience, if you don't work in inclusive education specifically in refugee context. I just need to hear from you. Yeah. Okay, Linda, please, could you just share some of the responses in the chat?
Yes, several are saying beginner, total beginner, and these are the people we want at the webinar, which is great. You'll find out a lot. Some people are saying B, some experience.
Yeah.
I actually put C because I do teach a lot of huge amount of refugees in the UK.
That's going to be very helpful.
And somebody, one Defrau has also said C as well. So we have some people with more experience, but most with none.
That's good. Some of them, yeah. Okay. It's amazing. This is going to give us idea how to share knowledge from different levels of experience. That's amazing. Thank you, all of you, for participating. Now let me share a chapter of my teaching journey with you. I taught refugee and displaced learners, specifically in Port Sudan. in multilingual and mixed-age classrooms. After the recent war in Sudan, many institutions, many universities in Khartoum, Madani, and other affected conflict areas were shut down. So some of students from these institutions, driven by hope and the desire to continue their education, they searching for alternative, safer place that they can continue their education. Red Sea University became a refuge for many of them. Some of my learners came from conflict-affected region of Sudan. So a lot of them have experienced trauma. They have lost somebody. They have interrupted schooling, and they spoke little or no English at all. I try to include them. I try to use visuals, sometimes realia, sometimes single work and pair work, and storytelling to build trust and include every learner. So creating a safe, emotional space was just as important as teaching content. I learned to listen with my heart and before listening with my ear. So those students, they just need to feel safe. They just need to feel they are belong, because now they are new in a new place. They didn't just lose their homes. They also lost the institutions that once they had trust for their academic progress. This experience shaped my belief in inclusive, flexible, and human-centered teaching. Even when they couldn't say much, their eyes were telling stories. And now we're going to shift to global refugee education challenges. As I told you before, that according to the UNHCR report data, that 7.2 million refugee students are out of school. That's a worldwide number of refugee students. So it's heartbreaking, but also a powerful reminder that teachers like you can change that reality, one classroom at a time. Now, as you're going to see, according to the next slide, Steve, please. As you can see here, number of refugees living in Sub-Saharan Africa from 2010 until 2023 are in millions, increasing, starting from 2.2, and now it reached 7.8. So we have a big responsibility here to do with those refugee learners. So now let us zoom into what are the causes, what made people leave their homes and try to find another alternative safer place. The next slide. So now if you can see that there are several main causes, of refugee movement. Refugees are forced to leave their homes due to serious threats to their lives, safety, or livelihood. So one of the main causes is due to conflict and war. Armed conflicts, civil wars, and political violence drive people to seek safety elsewhere. For example, we have Syrian families. They escape from violence in their cities, in destruction of cities and conflicts. Another reason is due to climate change and environmental impact. Changing weather patterns, rising seas, and environmental degradation affect survival every day. For example, in Senegal, fishermen had to move they used to move on boats to search for fish because of the climate change. The third reason for people have to move their homes is persecution. Many people are persecuted for their religion, ethnicity, political views, or identity. Also, sometimes economic hardship let people leave their homes. Extreme poverty, lack of opportunities may force people to migrate. Another reason is natural disasters. Sudden disasters like earthquake, floods, and hurricanes force people from their homes. For example, if you can heard about the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, it's let millions of people leave their homes because of that sudden disasters. Now, as we're going to shift to So do you know which refugee population are most common in your country or region? You can feel free to write in the chat, and later on I'm going to read it. So now, what does inclusion look like in this context? So, sorry, before we are going to shift to inclusion, now let us see refugees or zoom in on the African context. Okay, next slide, Steve. So, according to the UNHCR report also that refugees in Africa reach 30 million displaced people in Sub-Saharan Africa. And this was in 2023. Refugees now, they are living in Uganda, Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya. And they come from places that are affected by conflict, like in Sudan, we have in Darfur, South Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia, and according to climate crisis, also in Sahel region, political insecurity. So people, they migrate because of different reasons. And now we have a lot of refugees in Sub-Saharan Africa. So what inclusion look like specifically in this context? Yeah. Steve, next. Inclusion means that to ensure every learner, regardless of their background, their levels, their ability or displacement, they have to access equality education. Now I need to ask you a question. If you heard the word inclusive classroom, what words come to your mind? Could you please participate in the chat? What words come to your mind when you hear inclusive classroom? Okay. So, yes, excellent. Yeah. Gendering and making sure that, yeah. Empathy. Yes, excellent. Now let us look at the challenges that refugee learners may face. Excellent answers, amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for participating. Now, let us understand the unique challenges that faced by refugee students. Some of the main challenges that faced by refugee students are trauma and emotional stress. Many refugees, because they have endured conflict, displacement, and loss, affect their emotional well-being and the ability to focus in class. So whenever you have a students in your class that feel reluctant and wouldn't participate and wouldn't engage with their peers, so those students really need some emotional sensitivity. Also, some of the challenges that faced by students is interrupted or limited schooling. So gaps in formal education due to displacement create foundational knowledge gaps and varying academic readiness. Also, language and communication barriers. Language barriers is very important because there are some students that when they have to move to another school, they have a problem in communicating because maybe they couldn't understand the language that used inside their class. So it's very necessary to bear in mind that refugees often have limited proficiency in school's language, complicating interaction and comprehension. Also, social isolation is very important. Some students, they have problem to adopting to new social norms. Cultural expectation can hinder integration and peer relationships. So those are some of the main challenges that may be faced by refugee students. And there is a lot of challenges that also, those are the primary, and also we are going to know in your country, in your classroom, maybe you as a teacher suffer from some students that they wouldn't participate, they wouldn't react, they wouldn't speak even. All the time, maybe they were crying, they feel anger. And believe me, sometimes students, when they feel anger or sad, they have something in their heart. They have problems that need to be understood by the teachers immediately. So now let us talk about how language barriers and cultural differences can impact learning. these two main problems, they have a lot of difficulties they can introduce in learning. Communication difficulties, for example, limited language skills can reduce participation, as we talked in the previous slide, that some students, they have problems in the school's languages, so they couldn't participate actively. Also, it's going to reduce class engagement, and so low or reduce the access to curriculum, to content. It's going to reflect on the achievement. Communication difficulties also may lead to misunderstandings, may arise between the teacher and the students. So due to different language proficiency, sometimes teachers use language that, or some vocabulary that's so difficult for students to understand. So here we have to bear in mind that, to be very aware in the proficiency levels between the teacher and their students. Cultural norms and expectation. Cultural norms and expectation also is going to impact in learning. Difference in educational values, classroom behavior, and learning styles require sensitivity and adaptation from educators. We have to be sensitive. We have to bear in mind that those learners, they have different backgrounds. They need different behavior, okay? Also, submission based on one actual perspective can lead to misinterpretation and exclusion. And this is the things that we try to avoid here. We let all students to feel that they are included, not excluded. Now, next slide, Steve, please. As we're going to see, we need to build a welcoming, supportive, warming, safety, belonging environment for those type of learners. So how we are going to build a welcoming and supportive classroom environment? First of all, try to foster safety. If students, they feel safe in your class, this is going to build trust. Creating safe space for students, they can feel emotionally and physically secure to express themselves. So, celebrate diversity. Incorporate multicultural materials and honor students' language and tradition to build belonging. So, a feeling of belonging is very important as safety. So students, if they feel they are belong to your classroom, they are going to feel safe. They are going to feel, yeah, I belong to my peer. I belong to my group. Feeling of belonging is very important for refugee students. Building relationship. So as teachers, try as much as you can to build relationships. Relationships can be built through encouragement. Through encouragement, you can connect students together. And this can be done through team activities, peer learning. So we can reduce isolation. Also, communicate clearly. So the whole time we need to use not only words, narrative way of teaching. Sometimes we need to use visuals, symbol languages. And through it, we can enhance understanding and reduce frustration. So here, we do not need students to feel frustrated. They have a lot of overwhelmed understanding. The teachers speak all the time difficult languages. I can't understand. I can't do anything. So we need to clear our communication. So using visuals, symbol languages, symbol vocabulary. Through these techniques, we can build a welcoming and supportive classroom for refugee students. So I need you to tell me which of these techniques have you tried before. So could you just write in the chat if you ever try some of these techniques, or which one would you like to try later on in your classroom? So as I told you in the beginning, this is a learning space for all of us. So I need you to engage with me in the chat. And later on, we're going to read it, the whole participation. Now, let us move to the next slide, Steve. Okay, so one of the most important techniques that we can help our learners is called scaffolding. Scaffolding, it's just like when you are building a new home, when you are building a huge building, you need scaffolding from outside so you can support inside. Scaffolding techniques mean that how through it we can support our learners to understand very fully. We can support them from outside, then we're gonna heal their inside. Just like building. So whenever you give them comprehension or reading, for example, you can just ask students to read. Today we're gonna have a reading exercise. So today we're gonna have to read a specific text. So I need you to read for me, or you enter the class and just read the text without explaining or giving some explanation before reading. So scaffolding techniques here means that pre-teach vocabulary. You can introduce key terms and concepts before lesson to build background knowledge. You can give them key terms. You can give them concepts before starting the lesson, and they gonna have, or they gonna understand what's lesson is going to be about. Also, you can use visual support. Sometimes you can bring images, charts, and gestures to reinforce verbal explanation and aid comprehension. Provide sentence frames. For example, I think, because it's very helpful. Offer templates for speaking and writing to help learners express ideas accurately. You can give them information in small pieces, chunk information, break lessons into smaller, manageable parts, allowing time for participating, allowing time to master. So this is a very helpful technique that I really, really need you to try with your learners. So let's move to the next slide, Steve. Now, we don't have to do it all alone. Students can also support each other. Let them explore how peer learning can be very helpful and include every learner. So leveraging peer support and collaborative learning is very important. Peer mentoring that you can pair newcomer students with fluent peers to provide academic and social support. Whenever you have a new students in your class, these new students, they may feel restricted. They may feel not belonging to his peers. So you can pair newcomer students with their fluent peers so they can help them, they can give them support. Also, group project. Encourage your students through cooperative tasks that promote communication and diverse perspective. Reciprocal teaching is very important to empower students. So sometimes, or not the whole time, teachers should be the instructor for the lesson. Sometimes you can give your students the time to teach each other. Students all the whole time, or children, for example, they learn better from each other. So give them the chance to teach each other. It's going to help to reinforce understanding. Discussion circles. This is one of the most important techniques. You can use it with large size classes. Discussion circles, through it, students, they can feel safe. It gives them safe spaces for sharing experiences without feeling judging. It helps them to participate language skills very, very accurately. So circle discussion is very helpful for large size classes, and also it lets students to feel safe spaces and they can share, they can talk even when they didn't want to talk. So now let us look at the next slide, Steve. Some of our learners have experienced trauma. This is something that you have to bear in mind. Refugee students, they came from places that have a lot of conflict. They have lost somebody close to them. They have shocks. So you have to be sensitive when you are teaching traumatic students. We must care. Now let us look at what things you should do and what things you should don't. Use routines. Routines means, for example, here in Muslim religion, routine is like doing prayer. So whenever you do prayer, you feel safe inside. Routines is very helpful to calm your nervous system. It's going to reduce your nervous system. Whenever you have students that feeling nervous, you can use routines. And routine is not going to be from the first time. You can repeat it several times. So routines is very helpful. Routines, for example, when you enter the class, you have to do opening ritual. When I enter my class, I ask my students to close their eyes with me and take a deep breath 3 times. Take a deep breath in and hold, and then take a deep breath out. This is a very helpful ritual routine that can calm students. Non-verbal check-ins. Not the whole time they should use to express themselves verbally. Sometimes they can show how they are feeling without talking or saying how I feel, because most of students, they have problem in understanding their emotions. Don't force participation. If students don't want to participate, just give them their space. Over time, they are going to participate. Over time, they are going to feel safe in the class. And try to avoid triggers. Some students, because they came from places that have conflict, have lost someone close to them. You cannot ask refugee students to write about bombs, for example. So bombs here is a triggers. So try to avoid triggers, something that makes students remember a bad memories that happened to them. An example that you can use in a sensitive approach of trauma, you can use something that's called feeling thermometer. Feeling thermometer is very helpful in self-regulation. Feeling thermometer, you can use feeling thermometer, or another time you can use something that's called emotion wheels. You can show them how the feelings of happy, sad, angry, and another feeling, for example. So you can ask them when they enter the class, how are you feeling how are you in the feeling thermometer today? So this is very helpful in self-regulation. Now let us shift to something that's very helpful. In many classes, in many classrooms, we have learners of different levels, different ages, different backgrounds, different abilities. So there is something that's called multi-level teaching. We have a quick survey here. I need you to participate with me. Have you ever tried multi-level teaching in your classroom? You can write in the chat if you, and if you're not. So write yes or no in the chat. Okay. Linda, could you please just write some of the answers in the chat?
I think it's just about half and half yes and half no. So some people have and some not.
That's great. I'm happy because they are participating. That means they are engaging. So half and half. So some of you have already used multi-level teaching and some of you. So now let us talk a little bit about multi-level teaching. Thank you for participating. I really appreciate it. So multi-level teaching means it's an approach that where a single teacher stimulates, educates students for different ages, grades, or ability levels within the same classroom. So you have different levels of students in your class. They have different ages, they have different grades, they have different abilities. So multi-level teaching here is what we mean. Instead of teaching one uniform lesson to the whole class, the teacher differentiates instruction to meet the diverse learning needs of all students. Multi-level teaching can be done through several techniques. One of those techniques is called station rotation for mixed ability groups. Station rotation, just like a train, when he stops in different stations, station 1, station 2, station 3, for example. So you can use station rotation in your class. Station 1, let us talk about vocabulary. Station 2, let us talk about types of sentence. Station 3, and etc. So it's a very helpful type of it's a very helpful technique in multi-level teaching. I really appreciate if you try it in your class, and you can tell me if you have ever heard about station rotation. Okay, so next. Now, let us make this fun. Which of these resources do you think is easiest to use in your context? You can add another one if you have. So songs, for example, nature, community elders, or mobile apps. Or maybe even you have other resources that you use in your country. Just tell me. I need to know the easiest resources that you can adopt in your context. Please write in the chat, and Linda is going to read for us some of the answers.
Yeah, more people are saying mobile apps, I think, and songs.
Mobile apps. Oh, amazing.
And one person said nature.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Interesting.
nature, songs, and mobile apps. Nobody said community elders yet.
Okay. So what about community elders? Have you ever heard about community elders? So I think it's because nowadays we don't have community elders around us. So, okay. Yeah, thank you for participation. I really appreciate your participation. This is give me an idea which resources is very easier for you to adopt. For me, I use songs also. I use nature and mobile apps sometimes because we have a problem here in internet connection. So next slide, Steve. Now let us finish with a few simple practical steps that I need you to start using right away after this webinar. Whenever you enter your class, I need you to try one of these techniques, please. Now, next step is implementing inclusion in your classroom, in our classroom. Assess your classroom. The first thing that you need to do is to assess your classroom. Identify your learners, identify their strengths, their gaps in supporting. You need to understand their strengths. You need to know the gaps in supporting refugee and multilingual learners. Set clear inclusion goals. Define practical objectives. Align with the students' needs and available resources. Engage in professional development. CBD is very important for teachers. So seek ongoing training and even understanding of culturally responsive pedagogy. Collaborate and reflect. So it's very important to collaborate and reflect with your colleagues, with other teachers, with your students, with your families to implement and refine inclusive strategies. So adopting these steps reinforces your commitment to equity and creates a virtual learning environment where all students can thrive. Inclusion is an evolving process that benefits from patience, resistance, and community collaboration. So now I need you to, Linda, I think if they have anything to share before we go into the Q&A session.
Yeah, we're going to go into you finished your content, yeah? So we're going to go into the questions now. There are so many questions that have been popping up in the chat already. So I don't know if we're going to actually have time for all of them. But if we don't, then this slide that's just come up about the Telegram group, then I'm sure Samah will address the questions in the Telegram group on Friday. And she'd also like you to try out one of the practical tasks, the feeling thermometer or the station rotation before Friday. There's a couple of really good links here as well that Samah's added. This handbook for teachers, the language for resilience. Steve's just shared it in the chat. Thank you, Steve. And there's also a podcast, How Can I Teach Refugees? And there's a huge amount more information on those two teaching English resources. So please have a look at those and then ask questions, discuss them on Friday. So, and there's been so much interaction, so helpful and useful, so many great ideas like the taking deep breaths, the peer mentoring, reciprocal teaching, so many really interesting ideas.
Okay.
So I think it would be great for everyone to watch the recording afterwards and look at the slides afterwards as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've actually got 9 questions I've written down. Let's see if we can work through some of them now. The first one from Vida Luchmi was, is translanguaging important to teach refugee students?
I think trans languages. Sometimes, some of these students, they have problem in understanding English. So sometimes, yeah, as teachers, we can do trans languages for them. It's easy to let them understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important, isn't it, to bring in their whole
Yes.
selves, bring in their first language if they can't understand, maybe translate words, get them to help each other. I think that's a great idea, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Another question, very interesting question from Mariam here. How can you handle students with special needs who are also refugees? So this is a big issue, I think. Any ideas?
So in every classroom, you are going to have disabilities students. It means disabilities, right?
Disabilities
So
and learning difficulties as well, maybe.
yeah. So here, the power of peer, the power of group task is very helpful. So sometimes we have deaf students. I think deaf students, and okay, we have here in Sudan blind students, and all the time we include them with their colleagues. We do not try to separate them. So putting them in a group task is very helpful. So sometimes we can give them a task with their peers. Is very helpful, is going to help. Some students, they have difficulties in understanding, so you can try with those type of students, smaller and smaller. You can just ask them, you can just try to explain more and more using different stuffs like visuals sometimes. You can illustrate through visuals, images, gestures, so they can understand easily. And for those who have disabilities, you can engage them with their peers.
Great, yeah. So it's a question of trying out what works, isn't it? Because there's no rules for this, and what works with each learners with different needs, disabilities, and learning differences, and also the refugees. They have so many different needs. It's very complex, and it needs teachers
Yeah,
who understand and are willing to put in a lot of extra work, I think. So great.
exactly.
Another question here. This is interesting as well from Tess Home. In low resource settings, how do we balance the needs of local disadvantaged learners and refugee learners fairly? So if it's a
Oh,
mixed class, yeah.
so important question. So we have a mix. Can you just reverse this question again,
Yeah,
Linda?
in low resource settings, how do we balance the needs of local disadvantaged learners and refugee learners fairly? So I suppose there aren't enough resources to go round. You've got lots of local
We have
learners who have
limited
lots of
materials
needs,
that you can
and you
use.
have, yeah, refugee learners as well. How do you
So
balance that fairly?
as teachers, sometimes we struggle a lot about materials, resources. Even here in Sudan, we have a lot of problem of having books for students. So it's not our responsibility to feel like we we have to let our students to feel they actually learn better. So try as much of the materials that around you. You can use Realia, for example, as I told you. So Realia is very helpful sometimes, even when you have limited resources. Objects that around you can be very helpful. Through it, you can teach those students.
Yes, I've heard that using more visual and kinesthetic tasks, it helps everyone. So it's not just the local disadvantaged people, not just the refugees, it's helping everybody to make everything clearer. And the more understanding the teacher shows of the learners and their difficulties, the more that's
Yeah.
going to help as well. Some of the other techniques that Samah said, like the peer mentoring and the reciprocal teaching, the discussion circles as well, I think they can help.
Yeah, discussion circles,
Yeah.
exactly. I missed that.
Okay, another one. What happens when inclusion leads to tension or disagreement between the host students and the refugees? How should a school react? Have you ever had experience of this? maybe so many refugee people are coming in, and maybe it's seen as not fair. So maybe there's some sort of tension or disagreement.
Yeah, we have sort of this problem here in Sudan. When we have a lot of refugees come from Khartoum and Madani, here in Port Sudan specifically, so we have overcrowded classrooms. So the host students, they have problem with those newcomers. The school decided to put a day for refugees and a day for the host. So it can be divided. Some day for refugees, another day for the host. Yeah.
And this is about being fair as well, isn't it? So
Yes,
you can't prioritize one half over the other, but everybody needs your help as a teacher and as a school, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another very wide question here from Mohammed.
Okay.
What can universities and schools do to help? It's a huge question. A few suggestions. Apart from the total content of your webinar, what would you prioritize there?
Do for refugees, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. To let them feel that they are not new here. This university is also belong to them. They have to be treated like their colleagues, university, and other staff of the university, schools, the president, the deans, the teachers. They have to treat them in the same way that the other students are be treated.
Right. There's no easy answer to some of these questions, is it? Well done for tackling them so well. There's a question here from Rabi Barrow. Can a flexible calendar and flexible timetable be of importance to refugees if there's a shortage of facilitators? So not enough teachers. Can you be flexible with calendar and timetable?
Yeah, it's going to be very helpful if there is not enough teachers in the school. So timetable is very important to rearrange and let students
maybe 3 times of the day when students come. Yeah, I think that's a
can
good
be arranged.
solution.
Sometimes of the weeks, for example. Yeah, it's going to be very helpful. Yeah.
There's a very interesting question here from Mariam. What about when there's a lack of basic needs like food and shelter? So where do we start as teachers? Is teaching them English their main priority if they have no food or shelter? What else can we do?
We can show them empathy. Yeah, it's very important to show them that I'm here for you. Yeah, I can hear you. You are being seen. It's very important.
Okay, it is very difficult, though, isn't it, if the students are don't have enough to eat, which is not just refugees, obviously.
Yeah, here education is their less priority. They need to feel safe again. They need to feel they are belonging again. So it's very important as teachers here to just go around, go beyond your role as a teacher. Sometimes you have to show empathy. You have to show them you are here for them. You are caring for them. I'm here to listen to you. You can tell me. And then after they are going to talk their problems, and slowly you can start teaching.
Yeah, again, it's not easy, is it? Yeah,
it's not easy, really. It's not easy.
Okay, and another question here. How can the huge numbers of refugees be handled in teaching sessions, given the inadequate numbers of teachers in refugee schools and areas? So not enough teachers, too many students. What's the solution?
To divide them into groups, starting by group 1, group 2, group task is very helpful. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has to be quite organized, I think, doesn't it? Because you can't do miracles. Yeah, great.
The next group, and then teachers, they can just handle one group and the second group and the third group.
And a related question from Pierre here. What's the first thing to fix when we get refugee learners in class? What's the first thing that you do?
Okay, the first thing that you do when you have refugees in class, to pair them with another students in the class. As we said, to rebuild social relationship, newcomer, you can put them with older students inside. So next time they are going to build relationships. Newcomers, they need to have social relationship. So try not to isolate them, try to include them with their peers, with their older students in the school. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great. So that's just the first step, isn't it? Yes. Okay.
The first step is to try to include them with their persons.
Yeah, and Gift has said here, understanding their differences and needs in the chat, which is, of course, the Teaching English theme of these 3 months. It's all about understanding their needs, understanding our learners, understanding where they're from, understanding their blocks. Yeah, so this is a really important topic. Yeah.
Understand.
Okay, there's one more interesting question here. And this is about something you mentioned about using community elders. So the question is, how can we tap into community elders as an adaptable resource? Have you got any experience of using them and give ideas to people?
Sometimes just you shouldn't bring a person in the class. You can just tell them about a person in their country that have a very beautiful values. And I guess I couldn't understand the question very well. The second part of the question.
Okay, it's just how do we make use of community elders as a resource?
Yeah, community elders. Sometimes you just can't tell them about specific person that give them value, let them feel honored, appreciated through stories. Yeah, sometimes we can use stories about.
Maybe it could be homework to ask students to go and talk to them about it, about things that
to talk about a very close person to them, a person that they feel like a role model.
Where is Fabian?
Okay, great. Okay, that's all the questions. Sorry, somebody's unmuted.
It's okay.
Which country has the highest number of refugees? Do you know that question?
Oh, actually, I didn't have that. Yeah. So I think in Sub-Saharan Africa right now.
Okay.
But specifically, which, yeah.
We do have a couple of minutes left. I wondered if 1 or 2 people have some burning questions or anything they'd like to share. If you put your hand up, we can ask you to unmute. If you have experience maybe, or any great ideas you'd like to share now, or any more questions. Would anybody like to ask anything themselves?
Hello. Hello, dear Linda and Samah.
Is there somebody with the hand up?
Yes, I'm Selma.
Okay, Selma.
I'm Selma.
Okay.
Yes.
What's your question or comment?
Hello. Yes,
Hello.
How are you? Yes. Really, this topic is very interesting. I like it more. As we have work, we need it with this topic. We need it in our schools to use this approach to know how to deal with these learners. To deal with these learners, we should first of all create a safe and secure environment for these learners.
Yeah.
Then to include them in the school, treat them emotionally in very kind way. Don't touch their personal experiences. Just make the lessons in general. Okay? Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Make the lessons in general and try to treat them emotionally and try to put them in a social with their peer in the class, with their peer in the class.
Great. Right.
Okay?
And we can tell you have a lot of experience as well, which is great.
Yes.
So please join the discussion on Friday in the Telegram group again, and you can contribute to that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank
you. Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Who is this? Who is this speaking? Did you put your hand up?
This is Atadamoji from Nigeria.
Okay. What is your question?
Ma'am, please, I would like the presenter to shed more light on the building a welcoming and a supportive classroom. Because in Nigeria, where I'm teaching, I came across of some experience, like there is some, I wrote in my question that we have indirect refugee. What I mean by indirect refugee is that in northern part of Nigeria, especially northwest of Nigeria, there's a lot of banditry, kidnapping, and others. Many of the northern run to the west, where I reside. The language they are speaking in the north part of Nigeria is Hausa. But my own language is Yoruba. And we also have some problem in the southeast of Nigeria. They are Igbo people. Their own language is also different. And different kind of people came to where I'm teaching. I have language barrier. What kind of the method can I employ in order to have effective class? That's
Okay,
my question, ma'am.
so where there's a language barrier, what do you do?
Exactly.
Any ideas, Samah?
So here you can use mixed languages. So whenever you have language barriers, you can use sometimes the mother tongue, sometimes just to let students understand. And other times you can use images. Yeah, images is very helpful. Visuals, aids, yeah.
Yeah, even images of situations and things you can use,
Exactly.
can't you? Yeah, visuals and showing what to do rather than explaining what to do, demonstrating. I think that really helps with instructions, doesn't it?
Try to use simple languages.
Yeah.
A few words, so simple words. It's very helpful.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for the questions. There's nobody else with their hand up at the moment, so I think I'll pass over to Steve. And thank you so much, Samah, for such a really, really interesting, full of ideas webinar.